That's numbers where the actual application itself was opened 260 million times, and it's being used by around 40 million people.
And there were some that were detained inappropriately, I understand. I was one of them, in fact. And but that number is, I think someone quoted 10,000. Is that right?
That's my belief, yeah.
But it's been applied, it's been used, and quite extensively, as you just so noted. And in the development of this product, it seems to be assumed that you're the sole provider. But can you advise the public that's watching how many contractors were actually part of the development of the ArriveCAN application?
I think the number the AG threw out was around 19 different other firms, different vendors. And
then the other issue is the expertise and the skill set within the civil service to provide this application. And I want to try to equate this as though we have a lot of real estate, a lot of assets, a lot of engagement, and this application is also has intellectual property. There's an asset value to this application. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is not throwaway code. The government of Canada owns all the IP, which I'm assuming is a platform for building other applications off of it.
So when the government engages the construction of a building, do they do it themselves or do they contract out?
They would contract that out.
And we would involve a contractor, and that contractor then uses subcontractors to provide the construction of that asset.
Correct. We act as a general contractor.
And the general contractor in the construction of a building will take a percentage of the overall cost of that contract. Is that how it works?
That's correct.
And some of those buildings could be $100 million construction of a 350 unit building. Let's assume it's $100 million. They take what kind of percentage, that general contractor? Do you have a sense? Do you have a know?
No, I'm sorry. I don't. I'm guessing it's over 20%.
And there's an evaluation, mind you, when they do a contract. There's a sense of what that value should be, and then it's audited and monitored to ensure that there's no overruns. Does that happen in this case when you're involved?
Yeah, there'll always be back and forth with the financial groups and the procurement and the contracting areas to make sure that, again, there's significant run rate left on a task authorization. There's enough money left on a contract. You can't go over, so they're always timing their deliverables with financial lines in place to make sure that there's always the funds in place to finish a part of the work.
Do you have a sense of how many contracts the government of Canada does annually? And also, not just IT, in a whole suite of activities.
I have no idea. Thousands, I'm guessing.
And then the outcome and the value for money, which is the crux of this thing, right? We're all trying to assess who's getting paid. Is somebody taking privilege in these contracts? Is somebody milking the system? And either general has cited that there could be better value for money in this instance. That didn't occur. But what's your perception of the value for money in this situation, given the pandemic and what took place?
Obviously, I only spoke of the component that I was working with.
Yes.
And I can speak very highly of the team of 30 or 40 people that were working 12, 14-hour days, 7 days a week, hitting 170. I mean, I challenge anybody to put that much effort in. The prices were substantiated by the rate, by the Crown, sorry. And I mean, I think the team that was put forward did a great job.
And during that process, you had interaction, presumably, with the employer, the buyer, to verify the consequence of what you were doing, correct? Is that correct?
Yeah, we submit monthly invoices. We don't get a check up front. And any time those invoices can be rejected or timesheets can be rejected, but the fact that they were approved every single month for 27 to 36 months told us we were doing a good job. You guys wouldn't have paid otherwise.
And you were a verified contractor long before ArriveCAN and long before the Liberal government was in power. Is that correct?
Yeah, just
not a DC strategy. As an individual.
PSBC identified us before the first COVID contract as a vendor of good record.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Sousa. Mrs. Vignola for 2.5, please.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson.
Mr.
Firth, we find ourselves in a situation here where we need IT technologists and specialists, and increasingly so, and AI isn't the silver bullet. So about 10, 12 or so years ago, the Harper government made cutbacks to IT specialists and their ranks by saying, well, since there aren't any projects, why pay them? So you're a consultant, and I imagine you can respond to this issue, whether it be a government or a company, to have specialised IT experts under their employ. In 2024, would they be paid to do nothing? Is that even remotely possible in 2024?
I think it'd be hard for the government to sustain a bench of resources with very specific skill sets. I think it would be an undertaking that would be A, hard to find the people, B, make them want to stay in one position. People like being consultants because they can bump around. And I think the model is something between what we have now and what's currently in place, is where you get your hired guns, you bring them in for a project and then let them go. I mean, that's otherwise you have unions involved and you have benches of resources sat doing nothing. So I think there is a place for contractors to continue doing.
Il serait impossible.
So it would be impossible that one would have IT resources who would work full-time. That doesn't exist anywhere in the world, eh? I see. Well. Now, that said, the only way that I see this playing out is to have departments that are au fait with the procurement process and know how to manage it properly. Now, if you take a step back from this current situation, as difficult as that might be, do the departments currently, are they able to supervise and monitor projects of substantive size currently, properly?
I'm sorry, just a brief answer if you can, Mr. Firth.
You can. Hello? Yes, I believe you can.
I think we have you frozen, Mr. Firth. Give us a couple seconds, please.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure if my internet is unstable right now, but I missed your last prompt there. Were you indicating it was my turn?
No, sorry. I think we have Mr. Firth is frozen.
I'm not getting
from looking at his
any audio. You're on mute, Mr. Chair.
No, I'm not.
I actually think it's them. I can hear you.
Oh,
you can hear me? Yeah.
I can hear you, but I don't think they can hear us.
I can hear you, Taylor.
Mr. Backrack, I can hear you well, and now Mr. Firth is back on. Can you hear us okay?
I can now, yes.
Okay. Mr. Firth, can you, are you okay just answering the question from Mrs. Vignola?
I'm sorry, I lost your internet got kind of
okay.
at the
Can
very
you
end.
repeat the question, please?
Now, imagine you took a step back from the situation and you had observed what has gone on, and that the record management and the management of procurement, it's of course the bailiwick of the department. Do you believe that that management, that oversight, that monitoring of procurement files and contracts is sound? Or is there room for improvement to avoid the kinds of situations that we're coming to grips with today?
Obviously, I can't speak for every department, but these last 18 months has said that I think CBSA needs some work.
Thank you very much. Mr. Backrack, now it is your time. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to use my time, Mr. Chair, to move a motion arising from this study on ArriveCAN. So I will move that in light of the recent finding that Dalian Enterprises received $7.9 million in funding for its work on ArriveCAN, while CEO David Yao was an employee of the Department of National Defense. The committee call on Mr. Yao, as well as the following senior officials from the Department of National Defense: Minister of National Defense Bill Blair, Deputy Minister of National Defense Bill Matthews, Associate Deputy Minister Material Troy Crosby, and Assistant Deputy Minister Human Resources Isabel DeMartis, to appear before committee no later than April 1st, 2024 for no less than 2 hours of testimony. And I believe my staff can make that available in writing to the committee.
Thanks, Mr. Bachrach. So this is different than the February 29th when you had on notice. I thought that's what was getting.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I'm just making sure if that's correct. Are you just putting this on notice right now, or are you putting it?
No, I'd like to move it and
Okay.
hopefully get to a vote in the minutes that are remaining of our meeting.
Thanks. I was just clarifying, sir. Thanks. Are we speakers?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah,
Would you mind if I speak quickly? Mr. Chair?
No, sorry, Mr. Firth. Sorry, we're attending something else, but we'll get to you shortly.
Yeah, I'm saying it's been 3 hours right now, and this is kind of where I think I can be.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I have to ask.
I
I have to ask you to stay, Mr. Firth, and we may be able to get to our last couple questioning rounds. But I just have to ask you to stand by for a bit here. Mr. Sousa, your hand is up, but I will get back to you shortly, Mr. Firth.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the revised version that's been submitted, correct? I think we were in agreement with what has been put forward.
Perfect. So we're all in agreement then, colleagues? Wonderful. So adopted. Mr. Firth, we just have two more last interventions, Mrs. Block and then Mr. Baines, but we'll have you out here shortly. Mrs. Block, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Really quickly, Mr. Firth, do you have any contracts with provincial governments or any municipal governments at this time?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. The Auditor General noted that CBSA identified a resource that was added to one of your task authorizations as a subcontractor, and this resource was KPMG, and she noted that that was unusual. This is one of the 4 largest multinational firms worldwide, and yet they were placed on a tax authorization form as a subcontractor to your company. Do you know who approached KPMG to be put in place as a subcontractor to GC Strategies?
No, I know who approached me from KPMG, but I don't know. I don't know. In front of me right now, I can't comment on that. I'm sorry.
Who was your contact at KPMG?
Again, with all due respect, I'd like to give you that before 5 o'clock since I'm trying to get out of here.
Okay.
In writing.
Okay. At the same time, could you provide us with how much of a commission you would have earned as a result of that resource being placed on a tax authorization form?
Absolutely.
In response to some of the questions or comments that my colleague, Mr. Sousa, made in his previous intervention, the Auditor General, the Procurement Ombuds, the Comptroller General have all indicated that they are deeply concerned with what has been uncovered during the study. They believe that this could be an issue across other departments. In fact, the Auditor General noted 2 other departments. There are 10 investigations ongoing in regards to the irregularities, the mismanagement, and I think what could come down to criminality. And so my question for you actually is, are you aware of something called the Charbonneau loop, a term used in procurement and bidding?
No, sorry, I'm not.
Okay, Charbonneau loops ultimately happen when the pool of companies receiving public sector contracts for a given type of work is small enough that the same companies are sometimes overseeing and sometimes overseen by their peers in that same pool. Have you had any conversations with any of the other companies or firms that were bidding on the same contracts as you?
No, I did not.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that. I guess, Chair, in follow-up to my questions around KPMG, I am wondering if you can confirm that we have actually invited KPMG to appear before our committee